You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a flesh and blood podcast for players by players. And all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 163 of Arsenal Pass, fresh off of the world premiere of Part the Mistveil. We have our tournament player, our grinder here, our new fatigue enjoyer, Hayden Dale. Hayden, how was your experience? You got to go to Japan. I know, like, Japan is just it's that awesome place, right? It's that place that everybody wants TCGs to take them. I feel like it is like the apex destination. But you've been to Japan before. I have not. So maybe it was fun, but it wasn't your first time. How did you enjoy it? How did you enjoy the country, the experience, just overall? Break it down.
It was a good trip. It was an in and out trip, this one. It was in on Thursday morning, out Sunday evening, which story on that once we get to it in terms of the pressure that put on things. But usually out Sunday evening is always fine. I really like Japan. It's my favorite country in the world, I think. Mm-hmm. I would say we're going specifically for playing cards and for a specific event and not being able to necessarily enjoy kind of the sights and the food and the environment is a bit harder, right? Like it's a bit harder to enjoy the kind of totality of Tokyo as a city and all it has to offer. But I hadn't been in since sort of pre-COVID, and it's definitely changed a reasonable amount in Japan. So if you are going to Worlds or you've just been there, and maybe you had or hadn't been before, I'm not sure if people noticed that, but I think it definitely felt a little bit different. It's still an awesome place, and I had a great time. My trip was great. Got to eat some great food. Got to do a little bit of sightseeing on the first day when we when we dropped into Tokyo, and then obviously got to play the event. And I mean, the event was awesome, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, from this little sneak peek of the first entry of Flesh and Blood as a card game into Japan, it's going to be really successful, honestly. The buzz around the venue, with vendors, particularly, and the reason I say vendors first is because I think those are the people who are going to drive the game to people, right? So stores are going to drive the game to people, and stores are really excited about the game, mostly because a lot of them played the game. They jumped in, tried the game, and played it, and were excited about picking it up. They saw the amount of international travelers, they saw the kind of the hype around the game, and then the Japanese locals themselves, awesome people, got to play a few, and I think now being printed in Japanese is just such a great step forward for the game.
How was that, by the way, playing with the Japanese cards?
Great question. See, I love when you ask the exciting questions. Do you know what? So the hardest part was drafting Japanese cards. So if people don't know the backstory, so basically now that there's Japanese localization print, for the world premiere, they offered people to either play with English cards or to play with Japanese cards. That was the same for the Calling Day 1 for Sealed. And actually the same for the Battle Hardened on Sunday as well. Plus, I believe like other events that run through the weekend. But when it came to draft was only. So Day 2 of Calling, Top 8 of Calling, Battle Hardened Top 8. I think that covers the drafts that were done. They were all with Japanese only packs. So that definitely provided some challenges, especially in the Battle Hardened Top 8 when I opened a Majestic that I'd never seen before. And I had no clue what it did, and I had to try and guess at what it was.
Oh, you can't call a judge in that scenario? Can you not pause the draft to ask?
You're drafting. No, you're drafting. So the idea is you should probably have kind of not necessarily memorize, but have a really good idea of the cards beforehand. So one of the things they did, which was really awesome, is they provided these really cool booklets. I don't have the booklet with me, but basically it's a card index in a booklet, and it has the translation. So there's a Japanese version and there's an English version. So Japanese version for the Japanese players to be able to see what the English cards do when their opponent plays it, and vice versa. So your opponent plays a Japanese card, what the heck does this do? Flip to the card number, have a look at it, and you're allowed to reference this booklet to check a card during the event. Obviously you can just flick through it to be like, oh, what attack reaction can my opponent have here? But you could, use it to reference specific cards through the event, which was really helpful. People were saying, oh, means it's taking more time, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it was, especially at sort of after the first few rounds, especially after the world premiere. But I thought that was really cool, and I think it was helpful. But you couldn't reference that during the draft itself, so you did need to have some understanding of the cards. And I actually think it's funny. I think it probably meant that people ended up maybe just forcing or leaning into the archetype they played on day one because they knew majority of what the cards did. Honestly, I think that might be the case.
Statistically, that's what happens either way.
That always happens. Yeah, that always happens.
Did you see the statistics in Barcelona of the people that they played like their
same hero twice?
Yep, same hero twice.
That one I feel like is a little bit different though, because that's just preference for hero through testing, right? Like if you look at Queenstown, I think Queenstown is the funniest one, and the same thing happened again here in Queenstown. From day one of sealed deck to what people drafted in the draft on day 2, it was like 88% the same hero or something. People like the exact same hero for the people. So, I think that probably happened here as well. But anyway, yes, the event was awesome. The playing with Japanese and English cards, not an issue. It was so funny watching some people be like, I'm going to play with... So here's a funny story. Mr. Matt Rogers signs up for the event and signs up to play with Japanese cards in the, I believe, the world premiere.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to learn all these beforehand so that I can play with it so that I'm ready for like the draft and stuff. Gets to like the day before, hasn't learned all the cards, is like furiously trying to swap to like English packs on the morning of or the night before to make sure he can play with for the calling to be playing with English cards.
Did you choose Japanese or English cards?
I chose English cards. I want to be able to read my cards. I don't want to... Basically, my view is this, right? If you're there to have a good time and you want to collect some Japanese cards, do it, 100%, especially for the world premiere. If you want to give yourself every single possible edge to make sure that you don't make a mistake and you do what your cards say they do, and like there's a lot of times where I've played with cards for years and I'll reread the card to make sure I'm not missing anything, you know what I mean? Like I just don't want to give myself any kind of percentage to make a mistake. So I'm going to play with the cards that I can read. Personally,
yeah. Do you want to give us like the Hayden Dale POV of like your few days in Japan? I saw you had some recaps written here. You talked about
I got some recap notes.
Some people you were hanging out with. Just break down for us. Take me into the experience. I want to live vicariously.
All right, I can do that. I've also got some shout outs to share as well. So I got it on Thursday for those, just quick backstory for those that have been living under a rock. World premiere of Part of the Mistveil happened this past weekend, including the Calling Tokyo. Lots of people descended on Tokyo to play this. The world premiere itself was sold out at 800 players. I think people, like 720 sat down for round 1. So some people dropped out, obviously, collected the promos, whatever. But that's a massive world premiere, right? In a new region. And then for the calling itself, it was just under, it was under 600 players, over 500 players, so between 500 and 600, which I think is a huge achievement that's the biggest calling in Asia. It's, one of the biggest callings that we've had, especially limited wise. I think that's such a fantastic return. So yeah, got it on Thursday. I linked up with Mr. Himmel, the Bazaar himself. If you don't know who Himmel is, he provided us with Yellow Ravenous Rebels back in calling Orlando US Nationals time. And Mr. Nick Butcher took these guys to a great ramen spot for lunch that I've been wanting to go to. Showed them some of the sights of Tokyo, tried to take them up a tower actually to get a good view of Tokyo, but the tickets were completely sold out, as is often the case with things in Japan.
How was the weather
ahead of time? The weather was nice. Yeah, it was not too hot, but it was sunny. It's sort of spring over there at the moment, so it's quite nice. Friday, so yeah, we're getting Thursday. What do we do for dinner on Thursday? We got sort of like just a casual dinner because a lot of people didn't get in till later. And then Friday we went and played the world premiere. I opened maybe the most broken Majestic in the set, which I didn't realize kind of at the time. I was like, this card's really good. But then as soon as I started playing, so you've seen this is Manifestations of Miragai. Have you seen this card, Brendan?
Nope. Manifestations of Miragai.
So Manifestations of Miragai is it's an instant aura. It's a illusionist. Let me just bring it up actually.
Instant illusionist aura.
Oh, if you got it there, do you want to read it out?
No, I was just filling air. Beering.
Oh, okay. So it's a mystic illusionist or instant aura. It's a blue. It costs 3, so it has no defensive value. It's a majestic. It says this enters the arena with 2+1 counters on it. If a chi was pitched to play this, instead this enters the arena with 4+1 counters on it, and it has ward X, where X is the number of +1 counters. So you basically always are trying to play this with chi. So pitch chi to play this. Comes in with 4+1 counters on it. So it has ward 8.
Wait, ward 8.
And then it has,
ward +1. Wait. So what? I missed something.
Sorry. No, I said ward. I said ward 4, but then it attacks for 8. Sorry, is what I meant to say.
Okay.
So you play this on your opponent's turn. You go back to your turn. You attack for 8 with it, and it has go again because it has +1 counters on it. And then you can do other stuff. Cost you 1 resource. And then on your opponent's turn, it still has ward 4. So it's like a 1 card 12. Give or take 2 card 12 with one resource to attack with at like its floor. If you can keep this card around, which unfortunately for my Enigma opponents in the mirror that I did to multiple of them, I got to keep this around for multiple turns because I set it up so that I could protect it with other auras and cards to defend it. If you get to attack with this twice, you've paid 2 resources to attack for 16 damage over 2 turns with Go Again. This card's a little bit busted. So I actually tweeted about it. So I 4-0'd the world premiere. This card was a big part of that, and I actually tweeted about it. And then James White walked past me on Saturday at the calling, and he's like, "Did you open another Manifestations of Moraga?" Mm-hmm. I just finished building my deck actually, and he came up to me and I was like, No, Manifestations of Moraga this time. He's like, "Oh, that's a shame. That card's pretty good." So, I ended up 4-0 in the world premiere. Awesome event. Got to play against I think one Japanese player. It was interesting actually. The way they did it is they offered you English packs or Japanese packs, but I think the way they ended up doing it to facilitate this, they actually split the room. So all the people with Japanese cards played against other people with Japanese cards, and all the people with English cards played against people with English cards, which I don't know if that was
the softer language. Like, which was if you're trying to spike the world premiere, am I getting Japanese cards or am I getting English cards?
I do. I mean, half the top 8 of the calling was Japanese players, so it might be like for like, honestly. And there was a lot of people that traveled in for this event, like a lot of faces I'd never seen before. People who were just fans of the game who wanted to be there for this historic event. Not necessarily like, obviously there's the Brody Spurlocks of the world, the Michael Finks, the people who are globetrotters and grinders, right, who are going to be there. But then you also have people who just were like, I want to come to Japan. I love Flesh and Blood. This is a historic event. I want to be there for it. And they just showed up. So you had that kind of in the English one. Then you had these Japanese players who, some of them very, very much brand new, but then others of them, have been playing with English cards for the past year or so and very much entrenched in this game, very good at the game at this point as well. So no side, I would say, was necessarily soft to Brendan.
Sorry, it's just the card gamer comes out. Like, how do we? Where's the plus EV?
Just open Manifestations and Moraga. It doesn't matter which side you're on, honestly. So 4-0'd that. Oh, and then this is my favorite story of the weekend. So we link up with. So we were staying with Mr. Matt Rogers, Tarek Patel, and a guy named Ryan who is involved with event organization in the UK and PCG as well. And there was 6 of us in total, and we went for dinner on the Saturday. And we're like, I've found a place for us. It's like a Japanese barbecue. Sorry, this is the Friday. It's Japanese barbecue. Let's go and do that, and let's go back to your guys' Airbnb, and we'll play some more sealed, get some more reps in. And so we're walking to this like barbecue place, and then Tarek and Matt kind of stopped, like, "Hey, what about this place?" Like on the way, they're like, "We're walking for 20 minutes. Why me, Brendan, I like to walk, right?" I'm like, "It's fine. It's a walking distance. It's walking distance. We probably should have Ubered." It was like,
that's like when we got those fucking tacos, bro, and we were out.
See, I love to walk for food because then I feel better about eating a lot of food.
I think you just misjudged the distance, and we were out in the freezing cold for like an hour, and I almost got robbed while Hayden did not back me up at all. I got shaken down for some tacos.
It's a bit of a difference between downtown LA and Shinjuku, isn't there, when it comes to walking through it at night? Anyway, we kind of stop. They stop at this place, and we're in the edge of like Koreatown, basically in Shinjuku. And Matt's like, "What about this place?" And it like looks nice, a Korean barbecue place, And I'm like, something doesn't look right about this. Like, there's no one in there. Like, it looks kind of a bit sterile. There's no one in there. Do you want to go? And Nick's like, "I don't want to go into a place where there's no one. I want to go to a place where there's lots of people." He's like, "I want to line up."
Yeah, and then I was like, "Well, French onion soup."
And Tarek's like, "Well, I don't want to keep walking. Like, if we could go to this place, it's going to save us some time. It'd be great." I was like, "Oh, I'll tell you what, let's look it up on Google and let's see what the reviews are like." Try to Google this place, can't find anything. I'm like, okay, sometimes it's hard to find Japanese places because of naming and things like that. I'll look on Google Maps and I'll click on it. Zoom in on Google Maps. I cannot find this place. It does not exist.
That's how you know
Google
this
Maps.
place is fire.
Okay, so I'm worried at this point, but it looked really modern, and like it looked like it was a sizable place. It wasn't a small kind of Korean barbecue place. At this point, they're like, "Okay, let's just chance it. Let's just go in and try it." I'm like worried I'm gonna lose a kidney at this point at this place. Like, we're gonna get in? They're gonna lock the doors, and then So we get in. They're like, "Yeah, here's a table. We're the only ones in there." And Matt's like, "This place is so new. Like, I wonder when they opened." So we like order our food, get some drinks. A bit of a language barrier piece to it. We finally get what we wanted to order. And Matt just goes, "When did you guys open?" And they're like, "Today." And we're like,
"Makes sense."
No. Like, yeah, what time did you open? Like, when did you open? Not what time today. And they're like, no, we opened today. This is our first day. And they're like, "You're our first customers."
Wow. I have a little
this Korean barbecue place had this random group of, it was pretty reasonable. Yeah, it was pretty reasonable.
So speaking of Tarek Patel's walking career, since you brought it up.
Oh, you broke his foot, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, that's an interesting way of putting it. But yeah, Tarek stayed with me in Dallas for the Dallas calling, and like, there's not a lot of rules in my place, Like, you get a free place to stay, you get a nice bed, I'll rub your feet, but everybody who stays, they gotta run. So we take Tarek on a little jog, and he had a great time. Like, he's been singing the praises of that since for months now. But yeah, apparently he hurt his footy, and he got a hairline fracture. It was like a 3-mile run, just completely hairline fractured his foot. I actually felt kind of bad because like he was limping for a while. But I was wondering, I've been wondering. I was like, has he been working at it? Is he back into the hobby, as I like to say? Sounds like no. Sounds like he's not a fan of the movement.
I reckon Tarek might be one of the most like semi-athletic people who doesn't work out that I've met. I hope he listens to this.
Yeah, he's got that look.
All right. we play calling on Saturday. So I actually started out the calling pretty well. I started out 3-0 in the calling. My deck was I played new in the calling after playing Enigma in the world premiere. I really liked playing Enigma. I had a lot of fun. We did a bit of testing afterwards, kind of playing some seal pools. And my view is that Enigma was actually kind of default. I think Enigma just has the most raw power in the seal format. We'll get to more of that later. We're going to talk about more pre-release tips and tricks and kind of how to approach the seal format. And I thought Zen was fine, but you needed specific cards. And then I thought Nu was actually the weakest, and you needed the most specific cards to be able to do things with, because the deck really needs damage. I ended up playing Nu. My pool, I took the whole 30 minutes to decide what hero I was going to play. It was so tight in my pool, which is not really where you want to be, right? You know this, Brendan. Like, when your pool is spread like that, it's not a great start. But I think my Nu was quite strong. I had a couple of Majestics that I could play in my Nu deck. So I went and played Nu. I started at 3-0. I felt pretty good, actually. Beat a couple of Zens, and then I actually ended up dropping one game. I think I was in at 4-1, and then I lost the last 3 rounds to go 4-4 and miss day 2. I think it was literally 3 Nu mirrors that I lost to ends in day 1 and miss out on day 2. And they were tough. Like, I think this format, there's a lot of edges, small edges to be had. But I think my main learning was that for Nu, like, you really do need some good damage, especially because as you get into the later rounds, people are sideboarding. So it's 30 card maximum, right? But you have 112 cards in your pool. Like, people are sideboarding and coming up with plans for you. For instance, in like the Nu mirrors, people are siding out all their good blues so that your hero ability isn't very good. And I didn't have that much good damage. So I was playing against these Nu mirrors where they had like 2 card 7s and things like that, which were outpacing my damage. So yeah. Anyway,
how was the 30 card format? What was your sort of like macro take on it?
It's good. So
better?
I think, yeah, it is. I think basically fatigue isn't really a thing in this. I mean, there's not a thing in this format, but the fact is that damage output is really important. But because of the in-game hero abilities that you have and this ability to push damage, effectively the 30 card limit works really well. And what actually worked really well for Sealed, I think, is these extra 2 packs, because these extra 2 packs effectively make more heroes playable. I think if you had 6 packs, it would be similar to other formats we've seen previously, where not all the heroes are viable effectively, and I think that's what the extra 2 packs does. Yeah, especially with Nu and Zen, I think.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's like a great call, because I mean, one of my least favorite things about something like Bright Lights was like literally opening all my packs, putting all of my 3 blocks together.
Take your yellows out.
Yeah, exactly. Take the bananas out, and then do I have Evos? Do I not? Yeah, so sounds.
There's no deck building decision, right?
Yeah, that was my complaint, is I felt like I was making 0 decisions while deck building. So that's, I mean, even hearing about you say like, oh, people are sideboarding for you, like they have these extra cards, it just sounds like a better experience. Because yeah, I mean, decision points are what make these kind of games interesting. So
agree. So actually, for the calling on Saturday, I had a sideboard guide. Like, while I was deck building, I was like working out how I would sideboard versus each matchup, because I think that's actually really important, because you're playing against effectively 3 matchups, right? Mm-hmm. So what does your deck look like? Your configuration of your 30 cards look like for each of those matchups? Don't even worry about like, what does a 30 card deck look like? Just what does my 30 card configuration look like for the 3 matchups I'm going to play? That's what's actually important. And I actually sat there and I was like, oh, I think my Zen deck is actually pretty reasonable. And then I was like, okay, what does my Zen deck look like in the mirror? And I was like, it looks really bad, actually. So that was my 30 card configuration Zen versus Zen looked bad. Whereas when I laid out my 30 card configuration new versus every kind of matchup, I was like, actually, this looks more playable. So I had a little written sideboard guide that I was like busting out at the side of every matchup to like sideboard in the calling, to be honest. So sideboarding is a massive part of this format. Except when I got to the Battle Hardened.
Okay.
I did not need to sideboard with my deck on day 2.
That's a good thing.
I did a little bit of sideboarding. A much better thing. So I obviously bomb out day 1. Day 2, Battle Hardened. I open up a very good Zen pool. Just a very good, aggressive Zen pool. Good damage, some good combo cards. And end up going 6-1. So it's 8-round event. They started at 11 a.m., Brendan.
Pretty late.
8-round event plus draft top 8 at 11 a.m. Yeah, you know where this is going. So I start 6-1. I actually lose to Mr. Roger Bodie.
I lost to Roger Bodie at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, we played a game. He beat me on Enigma.
Yeah,
I played a lot of Zen mirrors,
MNR
actually.
greater than AP.
There you go. Roger got the dub there. And I'm at 6-1 heading into the last round. And at this point, it's like 6 p.m. My flight's at 10:30 p.m. to go home. And all my bags are back at the hotel. Me and Himmel had a hotel together. And I was like, how can I do this? So I look at the standings. Well, they won't print standings. The judge is like, we can't print standings. So we sit down for the last round. I look down the table. I shout out to Florian Christian Lahom was there. He traveled over with some of his guys, and he was at X1 as well. And he was at the 4th table. And I was like, hey, Florian, what's the opponent, the people next to you, what are their records? And he asked them, they're like, oh, we're at X2. And I was like, okay, so everyone in the top 8, the top 4 tables right now, we're locked for top 8. I scooped my opponent. I'm playing against Nova Chan, who's top seed at the moment, I think undefeated. I like scooped, and I'm like, Nova, I'm scooping. I chuck my stuff in my bag. I run to I say to the judge, I'm going to be back before top 8 starts. I run to the hotel, get in an Uber, run to the hotel, pack up all my shit, grab my bag, get back in an Uber, race back, get back just before they're ready to like take pictures and start top 8, so that I can still play the top 8 and then race to the airport afterwards with my bags already ready to go. So I can stay there until the very last minute at the event, trying to play as many rounds as possible, try and get this top 8 out.
How did top 8 go though?
So top 8 draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
It ends up taking, from the time I get back, we don't start the draft for another 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Not ideal. We draft. My draft's okay. I ended up starting in Zen. I open like a pack that only has one ninja card effectively. So I take it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to send the signal. I'm taking Zen. And then I kind of get a little bit cut. And then I end up in Enigma. I think 1 or 3 Enigma. I think my deck was like reasonable. Apparently Tarek thought it was unplayable, but I thought my deck was pretty reasonable. And I get to play the first round. I'm playing against Mo Bogsley. Some people know Mo Bogsley. And I just have to scoop and head to the airport. I don't even get to play my round, unfortunately. I just have to leave. So a little bit unfortunate. I was really I felt really good about the event overall, was feeling like I was playing a lot better than the day before, better understanding of the game. My deck in Seal was better. I felt pretty reasonable at my draft deck. I want to play Enigma. I think Enigma is my favorite hero, spoiler, in this limited format. But yeah, unfortunately I had to scoop to Mo Bogsley. We'll get a rematch though. And then, head to the airport.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any weekend shout-outs?
Got some wicked shout-outs. We had a cool crew. It's cool to hang out with Tarek and Himmel and Nick and Matt and Ryan, etc. It was cool to have. And then I had an opponent in the world premiere who I had met before. His name's Mohammed. He's from Australia, actually, as well, from Melbourne. And my shout-out is this. Every time I play someone in Flesh and Blood, often after the game, we'll talk about the game, we'll talk about Flesh and Blood. Me and him, we just spoke about movies for like the next 10 minutes after our game. And that's my favorite thing, is when we can talk about something that isn't Flesh and Blood after a game. So if we ever play an event and you want to chat to me about non-Flesh and Blood, I mean, I'm always happy to talk about the game and talk about, kind of what we did or, kind of what happened in the game. But afterwards, I like to talk about not the game as well. I was going
to say, if you ever play against me and we finish our game, I want you to tell me about how you lost your previous games in the day. I want to hear about all the stories. Yeah, I want to hear.
Send all your bad beat stories to Brendan Patrick.
That's the default. I get.
I got to meet a family from Indonesia who had traveled to the event, a dad and his 2 kids, and I actually got paired in round 2 against one of the kids. His name's Mateo, which was just an awesome experience. They were very cool, very nice. They asked, for a photo and said it was, nice to meet, and they supported the pod and things, which was awesome. And then we got to play, and Mateo, who I had a guess, I'm going to say is younger than 10. I actually don't know how it is. He was very good. Played very well, and we had a very close game. And I think, there's a future a PT player right there. So shout out to Family Fun is their name on Twitter. They kind of tweet their escapades.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
And then, yeah. And then I played against someone from Baltimore, Bill. Shout out to Bill. This is a bit of a cautionary tale I have for people going to the pre-release this weekend. So me and Bill played, I think, in round 3 of the calling. So both of us 2 at this point, playing a very good, very close new mirror. Bill was playing actually very well. He said to me, he's like, I'm actually pretty nervous right now. He's like, you're the best player I've played. And I was like, I guarantee that's probably not true. But we get to kind of towards the end of the game, and I play an attack react on my attack, which lets me look at the top 4 cards of Bill's deck. I don't know if people have seen this before. It's an attack react, gives +1, and you have to look at the top 4 cards, and then you put one of them onto the chain, and if it's a blue card, it has 0 defense. And I noticed that I can see that the top of Bill's deck, his sleeves are see-through, and I can see the chi poking through. So we call a judge, and unfortunately, Bill ends up with a game loss for mark cards. The judges think that there's an advantage gained, and they can't fix it. I actually asked the judge when he pulls me aside, I say, is there any way we can fix this? Could he just re-sleeve? Could we try and finish the game? They feel like there's no time, and too much of an advantage is gained, unfortunately. But Bill, great guys. Shout out to Bill and his group from Baltimore. But just cautionary tale for anyone going to the pre-release this weekend: make sure your sleeves are not see-through. Make sure you have completely.
Yeah. Even without double-sided cards, don't play with see-through sleeves.
For sure,
yeah.
But especially with double-sided cards, and especially because the chi is very vivid blue, or the flip side of the card, they're blue cards. They're very vivid. It's very easy to see through sleeves. So you want to make sure your sleeves are ideally a black backing is what you want. You don't want anything other than black backing, I think. So that would be my advice for the weekend. So it was a bit unfortunate.
Anybody else, or is that?
No, I just want to say one last thing. I think, there was obviously some noise around the event over the weekend with the commentary and there being no stream on the Saturday or being ended early due to someone, doing something that was pretty inappropriate and being told to, that they would no longer be part of the commentary team, which obviously is the correct decision. Shout out to Matt Rogers for jumping in and doing commentary on the Sunday and filling that spot. I think he had a really good time, and from what I heard, did a really good job. So just want to shout out to Mr. Rogers for filling that spot after, what happened, and he was able to jump in and do something good for his community.
Yeah. I was not watching at that time, so I was not able to watch it back either because the VODs are not there, so I don't feel comfortable commenting past that because, there's just nothing to review at this point, which is weird. I am not surprised.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. So it's not that I'm saying it, I don't believe anything. It's just that, I don't feel comfortable making any sort of statements on Arsenal Pass without actually listening or seeing what happened. So, fortunately, I was not watching at the time, but, honestly, it's for the best. Anyway, into the news. So, is it pronounced OO? Is that?
Yeah, OO.
Yeah,
congrats to OO for winning the calling.
This guy's been at the top tables of PTs and Worlds that I was casting, by the way, for so long, and he always wears that damn jacket, that leather jacket.
He looks so suave.
Looks so suave. I was actually standing over his shoulder. I remember at Barcelona Worlds while I was recording Yuki's draft. He was in that pod, the undefeated pod after day 1. So I've been a pretty consistent player for a while. Not surprised that he was able to take down the calling.
I think this is OO's first calling top 8, which is a real surprise because, like you say, played at multiple PTs, always putting up, always in and around the mix. So I think this is. I believe this is OO's first calling. Obviously, definitely first win, but I believe also first top 8. So shout out to OO for breaking through as a Taiwanese player. And then, Japanese product is out there. I had heard that the Japanese print run's actually pretty light on, by the way, Brendan. So if anyone, if you get your hands on some Japanese product, I think you should covet that product.
Yeah, maybe you should have taken those Japanese cards on the seal.
Maybe. I've got a box from my prize tickets for following the world premiere. So I've got a box of
Japanese product. Are they the only ones that have access to the special, some of the special variants as well?
I think one. I think there's one maybe, and someone can correct me in the comments. I think there's one specifically in the Japanese print run that's different to the English print run. That's my understanding.
Yeah, there's all kinds of wacky shit in Part the Mistveil for like lottery stuff to open. There's like a new hero, which is crazy. A new Enigma, I believe.
Yeah.
There's
and a new, was it
Blaze?
Oh
yes, Blaze. But that's
I was gonna say, surely you're all across this.
I thought it was a promo.
Oh no, you're right.
Event.
Sorry, it's promo. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right,
which,
right.
by the way, that wizard looks fucking sick. Because what else do you want to be doing as a wizard other than opting? So it's like, do that thing you want to do more damage. I love it.
Do you think we're going to get Blaze in the next set as an adult hero or as some form of Blaze? Maybe not specifically this Blaze, but are we going to get Blaze?
I think potentially. So. It looks very wizardy. So when I look at something like Icelander, yes, it is a wizard because it plays it into speed. It plays the opponent's turn with the blue cards out of Arsenal and things like that. But it doesn't evoke anything that is close to Kano for me. And I do think that Blaze is a lot closer to like what makes a wizard than Icelander was. Part of that is due to the power of some of Icelander's cards sort of forcing her into a specific strategy. But yeah, I mean, I love opting cards. Like, I mean, it just looks sick. That's all I can really say about Blaze right now.
Yeah.
But does that get you excited? Does that tickle you at all when you see Blaze?
Blaze? No, not at all. Not really my thing, but it's cool. I can respect it. It's a bit involved, I would say, for me.
Bit involved? What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. A bit involved. Okay, I do. Do you know what? So, Brendan, I actually got a Commander Cookout question in person on a piece of paper, a note, and it doesn't just say a question on it, like whoever that person was that time. But in the interest of time this week on the pod, because we've kind of dived deep into the calling and the world premiere, I want to make sure we have enough time to talk through in-depth tips and tricks for your pre-releases this weekend, all the learnings from this past weekend at the calling, at the world premiere, at the battle hardened, how to approach sealed in this format, and how to kind of look at building each of the different heroes. So we're going to save this question for next week's pod. I do want to shout out to Connor for coming up with that question. If you do want to get your questions in for the Commander Cookout, we definitely have some space over the next few months. You can email us at arsenalpassfab@gmail.com. You can drop them in the comments below. Let us know. It's why is Brendan laughing?
I was just going to say, we're only taking them as in-person submissions now. If you want to get your question read out, you better find a piece of parchment to write them on and deliver.
I actually provided Connor with the piece of paper, but I'll tell you what, it does go straight to the top of the list if you do give us a question in person, as Connor's will next week. But anyway, arsenalpassfab@gmail.com. YouTube comments, let us know it's a question for the Commander Cookout. If you're a patron, you can get that in the Discord. Otherwise, you can just send us a note when you see us at an event sometime soon.
Wow.
Part the Mistveil pre-release tips.
Yeah, are you revisiting cards at all? Do you still want to hit some of these cards that you maybe
let's revisit some cards. So actually, I want to give us a little pat on the back, Brendan, for our review.
We had some disparities though. Like, who was more right, you think, on the aggregate?
I was.
No.
We can talk through some of those. Let's talk through some. We'll talk through our biggest disparities and the learnings on those cards. But there's a few cards in particular that have a blue pitch that I want to talk about.
Okay.
That I think I was right about and you were wrong about.
Yes. Those ones I was very uncomfortable rating.
But I would say overall, I think we did a really good job of understanding what this format looked like and the power of cards, and specifically the power dynamic between certain cards. So if I take New, for instance, I think we did a really good job of understanding which cards, if you haven't listened to that yet, the set review, go and do it, because we friggin' nailed it.
I have a question for you.
You can get some good insight.
Slither or what is it, Venomous Strike? Is that the other one, or is that the name of the card? So the attack reaction gives +1, or the go again? What's
Tank Strike?
Yes. Which one? Which one is better?
Neither.
Okay, shit. That's kind of where we landed. We said maybe Slither's better, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think basically the equipment, we talked about the equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Slither equipment is better. I think on-demand go again is definitely better. Sometimes the Slither can be a little bit awkward off of the hiss, and actually what you want is it hiss? Maybe it's the other one. But you want the Fang Strike often actually. Venomous Bite. You often actually want the Fang Strike when you're playing reacts, because it's very easy to there's the defense reaction, defense for 3. There's some ways to play around an extra 3 pump. It's really hard to play around 4 pump, and often 4 is going to sometimes in the end game kill your opponent. So I think the reaction, the Fang Strike reaction, the Venomous Bite might be slightly better than Hiss. But I think the equipment is the other way around. So I think the Stilettos is better than the arms. And especially because the arms also has some replacement level.
Yep.
As is the other arms.
Yep. We talked about that.
Should we hit some of these cards? The cloaked class equipment. So we were quite far apart on these ones, Brendan, if you remember. So these are the what are the cloaked class equipment called? There's the rabbit one.
Yes,
I'm really good at.
I did switch up mid review. I did. Okay. I lost some confidence pretty quick when we talked about how narrow they were.
So the heirlooms, these are what we're talking about. Heirloom of rabbit hide, tiger hide, and snake hide. So I think these are somewhere in between where we had them. So I was pretty low on these. You were really high on these, but you did come down. I'll agree. I think these cards land somewhere in like the C+ to B territory, and it kind of really depends, I think, on your game plan. So there's a game plan with Enigma, which is kind of like you want to protect your aura and use that to ride it to victory. In that case, the rabbit hides can be really awkward because you're probably going to only ever get to 1 life when you're definitely going to lose the game. Whereas I think when you're playing Zen, where you're just kind of really trying to attack and trade damage, I actually think the Tiger Hide might be the best one. You're often getting to 1 life and trying to just like keep tempo and use your life as a source to keep tempo. And then Snake Hide it has better warn, so I think it has the most powerful effect, but is often kind of a bit hard to flip. It is true, people were playing around these, people were aware of them. There was some gamesmanship though. Like I know, Skybody Kikoi, which is the chest, the instant prevent 1 damage chest, for instance. Some people would keep that until they're on 1 life to try and feign having, one of the heirlooms, for instance, and their opponent playing around that. So, yeah, I think they're good, but I think it does land somewhere around where we kind of thought they're not super powerful.
Makes sense.
The chakras, I think, is one we got wrong. I think we were really high on these cards overall. Like we're in the kind of high Bs to A territory on some of these. So these are they get +3, and if you transcend it, they get +5. So the ninja one gives that to your Crouching Tiger as a non-attack action. Yeah, the new one's an attack reaction, and the Enigma one is damage prevention. That's the Moon Chakra. These are fine. These are good cards for sure. They do block 3. They are rares. They do minimum kind of add 3. It's really hard to trigger these to transcend, but when you do, they are really good. But I think they're just a little bit less reliable than maybe they looked when we were talking about the set review. So I think these are sitting somewhere around like the B territory as opposed to A marks.
Where did the double reacts land? Where double react get +X bonus?
Oh, the Double Trouble? It's only Double Trouble.
Is it only Double Trouble? Okay, I thought it was...
I believe it's only Double Trouble.
For some reason I thought it was 2. I could be wrong. I mean, you played with the cards, so...
Yeah, I think it's just Double Trouble. But that card is very good.
Okay.
Yeah, Double Trouble it's a 0 for 5. Like, the card's insane.
Well, there's some hoops to be had, but yeah, that was one card that I rated very...
not really, though.
I know, because you got the fucking equipment, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed nuts.
Yeah. No, I think that is.
So this is confirmed 100%. You went back, you looked at the ratings, you're like, you had it better than I did.
So let's get to that, because I think we can. Well, let's skip ahead. I think the cards that push me over the top is the second tenant of Chi cards, where you're like, these are C's, and I was like, these are A's.
Bro, yeah, this was one where I was like, okay, these are so hard to evaluate without playing, but.
So if you haven't seen these cards, so in particular, I want to read Second Tenant of Chi Moon, which is a mystic action attack at rare. It attacks for 5, defense for 3. It costs 3. It is blue, of course. And says, if you've transcended this turn, when this chain link resolves, draw a card. Basically, if you think about Uprising and how important the Draconic cards were to the 2 Draconic heroes and how they influenced how you built and played, so things like Blaze Headlong, take that and then like double the importance of those cards, because these are also resource cards. And basically the blues, we'll get to this when we talk about deck building in a minute, but the blues are actually the most important thing I think you should look at first when you're looking at deck building. They are as equally as important as your payoff reds, I think, because you need good ways to get value out of your transcend cards. So if you just play a shitty blue so that you can transcend, like a blue attack that comes in for 1 or 2 damage just so you can transcend, your transcend card is probably at or below rate on that first cycle that you play it at least, or you use it rather. And then that card that you've used to trigger transcend is also significantly below rate. You play a card like this though, a 2-card 5 attack that draws you a card and also triggers your transcend. That's where you're going to get value. So these cards are really powerful because of that. Second Tenant of Chi Wind is the same stats, except it says if you've transcended this turn, this gets Go Again. So it's a 2-card 5 with Go Again. I think on the whole, probably the go again is better because it's just going to fit into everything. But that draw card is really powerful, especially if you pair that with the go again transcend card, for instance, or you play the.
Yeah, I guess both are kind of close to 2 card 8s that are blue because you value a card at 3, you value go again pretty close to 3 as well.
Really good. So I think that was our biggest, and that, to be honest, I think we both did a really good job in the set review, Brendan. But I'm going to pat both ourselves on the back. But
well, there's one here that I definitely rated highly, which is Pouncing Key. I rated that one highly. Also, Wounding Blow. Yeah. Was I off or on about Wounding Blow?
That card's really good. I think we both said that card was really good, though, didn't we?
Yeah, but I was like, this card's. I was pretty.
You said an A. You just threw an A out there.
I said a B+ or an A-, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's a B. It's Wounding Blow is really good, and all heroes. It's a 0/4 block 3 at red, generic. It's going to be good in every hero. It's especially really good in Zen. It can be a little bit awkward in New, I think, to be honest. But Zen and Enigma, I think, use that card really well. A couple other cards I want to shout out that I think are worth looking at if you've listened to the set review and maybe we're a little bit down on. Water the Seeds is a very good card. This is the generic action attack. It costs 1. At red, attacks for 3 and defense for 2. It says when this attacks, your next attack this combat chain with 1 or less base attack gets +1 attack. Go again. So whenever you're making this a 1/4 go again, it's a leg tap. It's very easy to make that a leg tap, especially in Zen and especially in because of Crash and Tiger, and then also in Enigma because of the spectral shields as well. So I think that card is very good. Pouncing Key, yes, Pouncing Key might also be just as good as Key Unleashed. Almost. Key Unleashed has a higher damage density per card, but Pouncing Key is a 0/4 go again that you can find off of the Zen Transcend hero ability. And the last card I want to shout out is Astral Etchings. In the set review, Brendan, I was like, I don't know if this card is going to be good or bad. This card's good.
I thought we said good. I thought maybe.
Yeah, we landed on it big, but I think I said the first one's definitely good, but it could be a bit awkward, especially if you can't play it at instant speed on something. But this card is good. It's not broken. It's not insane. It's not Prismatic Shield of Monarch, right?
Yeah, so it's exactly where we said it is. I mean, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's where we landed. It was like
it is. I'm just coming back to it.
It's not quite Prismatic Shield, but yeah, interesting.
If you haven't seen Astral Etchings, just quickly, it's Illusionist action at rare, defense for 3, cost 1. It says put 3 +1 counters on target aura with ward you control. If you control Spectral Shield, you may play this as though it were an instant. That's the red version. I think the red version is by far and away the best. The others are kind of whatever.
Oh, how are the yellows in general?
How are the yellows overall? So because of the fact you get 8 packs, like you don't actually have to play many yellows.
Play your yellows. What about draft though?
So
did you draft? Yeah, you drafted.
Yes, you do. And so the other thing as well is actually in Sealed, you do play some yellows for sure. I think the spot that yellows hold in this is that it's like redundancy of effect. So in New, for instance, you might not have opened 2 or 3 red attack reactions. You might have opened 1, and then you play 2 yellows to kind of supplement that. Or you only have 2 red stealth cards, and the rest of your deck's really good. You have some good generic damage, but you need to play 2 or 3 yellow stealth cards, like you have yellow double trouble, for instance, things like that. An Enigma, kind of similar. It's like, okay, maybe I think Waning Vengeance, this is the 1 cost instant aura that has ward 3/2/1 if it's red, yellow, blue, and creates a spectral shield if a blue's been pitched when it dies. I think if you have that at yellow, you're probably playing it because it helps you enable other players. So I think basically it's the yellows are all like replacement level. You weren't necessarily out there to play yellows, but it's like, okay, I have the specific effect that I really need in my deck, or this thing that I need more of my deck, and I have some options at yellow but not red, so I'm going to play those to fill the gap. Because of the fact you have, blues are really important in this format. You need to be doing specific things with your hero ability or your game plan. Like you are looking for very specific cards in certain situations, and so sometimes those aren't going to come from red because you just didn't open them, and they're going to come from yellow. So I'd say on average, probably most decks were playing between 3 to 6 yellows, I would guess. 2 to 7 maybe as a wider sort
of. Is the end of the pack in draft, is it mono banana?
No, it's not actually. There are some good yellows out there as well. Again, for specifically filling a role within a deck, for instance. Because there's more blues in this set, you actually do get some blues come around late, and you don't need to play as many blues as you might think. So you do get some of the kind of bad blues coming around late. Like actually, there's some blues that feel like yellows in this set. Honestly,
yeah. What kind of blue counts are you looking at in these decks?
Yeah, should we go through each hero? Should we just get into the heroes? And
is there any general tips you want to hit before the heroes?
Good point. Okay. But blue counts overall. I think basically my first thing is probably you don't need to play as many as you think, but probably more than you've played historically. Blues are going to be the activation cards. You should be leaning into your blues. I think when you sit down and you look at your pool, I'm looking at my blues first, particularly my Mystic blues. I'm looking, do I have any of these second tenant cards, right? Those are cards that are really good. What first tenant cards do I have? So the first tenant cards are the ones that block 2. Those are also really good. But you want the right ones for your deck. So there's a cycle of them that, they're what's the cycle on first tenant? I always forget. Sorry, no, not first tenant's the non-attack actions. The cycle of 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 cost cards. So you've got Droplet, Rising Tide, Spillover, and Tidal Surge. Those cards are good, but the right ones are good in the right decks. So you want to look at which ones do you have, for instance. So Tidal Surge, for instance, is the 3 cost one that gets +2 attack and has 5 base attack. That's really good in Enigma, I think, but is a lot more awkward in something like Zen, on the other hand. Whereas with Zen, I'm looking with something like Droplet or Rising Tide. And what these cards actually do is they help you to... They're not necessarily always there to be your Transcend cards. Sometimes they are, especially if you have Pathwell Travel, which is... Give Go Again, Transcend. That's really good, for instance, in all decks, to be honest. That card's just really good with the right blues. So say in Enigma, I play that on my Tidal Surge, and then I come in with my Aura afterwards. I've gotten value for my 2 blues. Great. It's like a 3-card 7 that's given me Go Again and has transcended me. Something great. Whereas on the flip side, in something like Zen, I might come in with a blue Untamed, which is a 2 attack and gives +1 to your next Crouching Tiger. It has Go Again, so it has natural Go Again. I don't need my Pathwell Travel for that. I play that, and then I transcend with something like Rising Sun, Setting Moon, which is draw a card, then put a card back on the bottom of your deck. And then I play something like Droplet as a 0 for 4 to pay off the fact I've played 3 blues in a turn effectively. So there's kind of this mix of how you play your blues. But basically what I'm trying to say is you should lean into your blues, you should check your blues first, you should see how they interact base by themselves, and then look to your heroes and see what blues fit into each of the heroes, because the blues are really important.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go into the specific heroes. Also, you talked a lot about blues. I'm sure it's hero to hero based, but if you could ballpark me a number, because usually, so like let's say past formats, I feel like a very comfortable numbers often, like 8 to 10. Are we going above that, or like do you even agree with that original number that I have?
I don't think there's any hero playing less than 10 blues.
Okay, well that's a good heuristic.
Yeah, they're so important. So yeah, you're going to play because of not just the chi, but also because your blues have payoff to them as well, right? Like you have blues that can be above rate or can be above rate effectively. You are going to want to play more, and there's just a lot of blues in this set. So quickly, we'll get to new, but just quickly, Majestics are very good. Look at your Majestics. They're quite powerful in the set. I'm maybe a little bit concerned about the kind of power level they can add into the seal format, but it seemed okay over the weekend. It didn't seem like they're completely busted. There's a couple that are really strong. Most are pretty good. Definitely worth checking out your Majestics. We talked about people having sideboard plans. You should have sideboard plans as well. Going second is basically always correct, I think, in this format. In every matchup, I don't think there's any deck that wants to go first or matchup where you want to go first, to be honest. You should be really careful of your arsenal when you arsenal cards in this game, in this format, because the game can change really quickly. It's not a tempo-based format. It's more about setting up turns, setting up game states. And so if you have the wrong card in arsenal at the wrong time, it could get stuck there, or you could get severely punished for it. And the equipment cards are really good. You should look at them. If you have the equipment cards for specific heroes, and what I mean by this is for Illusionist, for Enigma, the arms piece that adds a counter is really important. For Nu, having one or ideally both of the attack react equipment is really important. And for Zen, having the legs in particular, but also the head is really important. The legs first and foremost, honestly, is really important to have for getting that Crouching Tiger. Mm-hmm. And lastly, you're going to use your hero ability, and you should use your hero ability a lot less than you might think when you first look at the set. It's often a trap, which we'll talk about when we get into each of the heroes. You want to start with Nu?
Let's do it. Let's hit Nu.
Blues. So if you're playing Nu and you're thinking about your blues, I think you want somewhere around 11 to 13 blues in a Nu deck. Now, this is my view based on the games I've played. Other people might have a slightly different view of this, but you do need blues. And again, just naturally in the set, you're going to play more blues because blues have payoff. One thing I want to point out is that the daggers are actually not that great. So because of the game plan. And I'll give you an example. Say you pitch a blue and you come with your dagger. It's 1 damage. And then you attack with a stealth card a stealth attack for 3, and then you have 1 resource left over for an attack react. Right? So you've got a 3-card 7 right there. That's not good. So at that point, the only thing that's good is the on-hit effect, right? Like if you get a good on-hit effect out of it. But a 3-card 7 is not where you want to be. And it's really hard to find ways to attack with your dagger and also get good value out of things, unless it's with a blue. And then at that point, you need to pair 2 blues. So the dagger is a tool to use for late game when you've got multiple blues in hand, or if you draw a hand with multiple blues, and also a tool to pair with the new hero ability. So quite a common line is like attack with the weapon. You know, the opponents are going to respect it a lot. And honestly, my advice is, especially on low card hands, you don't need to respect the dagger. That would be my advice against playing against new. If they're on 2-card hand, I'm not respecting that dagger. I'll take the 1 and then let them play out their stealth attack and have the attack react, and I'll block on that or something to save more damage. But quite a common kind of thing in the end game, or when there's like have a lot of blues in hand, or you're going to be able to activate the Enigma hero ability, attack with a dagger, and then play your blue card, play your transcend card to flip it. Hopefully you need to go again on that blue card, or you've played a non-attack action blue card, for instance, and then you activate the new ability, and then you're going to get the value off the dagger. Either on the go again on the first attack or on that activation. So that's kind of how you're trying to use dagger. Transcend cards, I think it's probably good to talk about how many transcend cards you want in your deck as well. We kind of missed that, right, Brendan? I think you want around 2 to 4 transcend cards in new. They can be a little bit clunky and awkward. You're also looking for the right transcend cards for the right heroes. So, if you're going to be playing new, for instance, you want the one that banishes cards from your opponent's deck. That's really good. You might want the go again one. What you don't want is the give -1 attack, because you're not really playing defense, though that card's best in Enigma, where you might want to play the defense reactions, but it's a lot worse in new, I think. Any other kind of things I can share? The mirror is interesting. It's about either getting good on-hit banishes to banish good blues that you can play from your opponent's banish, or just having good efficient damage. And that's kind of what I talked about with my calling, is I didn't have great damage. I had good ways to push on hits, but tip for playing the mirror and also playing its new is you can just sideboard out all your good blues and just play kind of just resource blues and cut down on your blue count and go back to like a more traditional kind of sealed deck at that point. And that's probably pretty against new, because new is below rate. New is going to attack with cards that are effectively below rate. The on hits is where new gets its value. So if you can kind of hamper that value, you're going to do well in the matchup.
How is the new fatigue strategy? Is it commonly employed? Is it effective?
So the problem is that because you have 30 cards, everyone's looking at their deck trying to get the most value out of your 30 cards. There's a reasonable amount of 2 blocks. The blues can be above rate. So if you're trying to fatigue someone, but they have good blues in their deck, they've just got good damage in their deck, they can push through it. So I think it's really hard. Probably if you have a good new fatigue deck, you probably just have a good new deck, to be honest. So it's going to be very hard for you to, because, okay, put it this way, right? If I'm playing against Zen and I'm like, I'm going to fatigue the Zen and I'm coming in with on hits to take cards from them, I have to play cards to actually fatigue them, because I have to banish cards from the top of the deck. Because if I just sit back and defend with all my block 3s, their cards are much more above rate, and then they've got these blues that also do the same thing, and then Crouching King, Crouching Tigers, etc. So if you just try and block out, you're gonna fatigue. And on the flip side, you have to attack to actually fatigue them. And then that creates space for them to attack you back, because you have to take damage to actually attack with cards. So fatigue is really hard in this format, I think, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's good to know.
Which is good. Yeah, I'm down with it.
All right, let's go on to Zen.
Zen. Okay, I'll start with the blues again. I think you probably want something similar, around 10 to 13 blues. But if I'm going to be on this, say, against new, and I'm going to cut down on my good blues, I could cut down to like 8 or 9, to be honest. But you basically want a blue in every hand, because the kind of game pattern with Zen is attack with your weapon, attack with a card that makes a Crouching Tiger. So maybe that's a 1 cost or it's a 0 cost. The kind of common one is the 1 for 3 that creates a Crouching Tiger in your hand unconditionally. So then you can attack with that, attack with your weapon, attack with Crouching Tiger. That's like a 2-card 6. It's not too bad. But there's some ones that are going to create on-hit Crouching Tigers, and you're going to play those first, so there's a 0 for 3, there's a 1 for 4. Let's say you pitch your blue, you attack with your 1 for 4. Your opponent uses some equipment, blocks it out. You don't have a Crouching Tiger. Well, you're probably not going to attack with your weapon that turn. You might attack with generic that costs 2, or an attack that costs 2, or 2 attacks that cost 1, for instance. So Zen has the most interesting lines, and I think the most dynamic lines, because it really revolves around the Crouching Tiger and your weapon and the value you can get out of it. But Zen is kind of this just sort of value deck. So you basically want a blue in every hand. if you're playing good transcend cards and you've got good combo cards, sometimes you're going to play more. I think I played 12 in my deck, for instance. You transcend cards is interesting. I think you want between 0 and 4 transcend cards. There's going to be some times where maybe you want to play 0 or 1 transcend card, and that's where you're going to have no good combo targets. And the reason you're playing Zen is because you have a good weapon and you're a value deck that can create Crouching Tigers and create damage, but you don't necessarily have the combo cards. So your hero ability is kind of a little bit useless, and you don't want to take the risk on having no blocks. But a lot of the time, you're probably going to play 2 to 3, I would say.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Just trying to think if there's anything else I want to hit on for Zen. I think your blues can be the worst of the 3 heroes, but unlike the other 2 heroes, Enigma and Nu, where you want like a lot of the good mystic blues, you can actually get away with just your class blues, because your class blues have Go Again, so Untamed, like Blue Pouncing Key, all these kind of blue cards that just kind of go again or combo with other cards. These allow you to efficiently transcend while kind of not having to set up specific game states because they naturally have Go Again. Oh, last tip for playing Zen. Don't break the combat chain. Read your weapon. Your weapon says combat chain. Sequence your turn so that you play all your non-attack actions before you attack, because if you play Aspect of, I think it's called Aspect of Tiger, there's a card that makes a non-attack action that makes a tiger in your hand. If you play that after you attack with your weapon, you're not going to get the buff from the weapon. So yeah, don't break the combat chain is the tip I would have there.
It's a classic.
You get punished for it.
All right, on to Enigma, your favorite hero.
Yeah, I think Enigma's my favorite hero Unlimited to play. I think it's really interesting. I think you get to set up some really cool game states. One of my favorite game plans with Enigma, I think people early on were like, you know, you just kind of build a board and you try and protect it and you keep chipping in. It's really hard to protect the board. That would be my tip with Enigma. More so what your game plan, I think, is taking a chunk of damage to then set up an aura and attack with it on your turn plus another attack. So present aura plus damage, and then probably play another aura on your opponent's turn. Maybe protect those auras for one turn, swing again. Next turn, they're able to push through damage and clear it, and you reset and present damage or present more auras from there. That's kind of the more common game plan. Enigma's going to play the most blues, definitely. I think you're going to be somewhere around 14 to 18 blues, and I think it's really going to depend on your archetype. Are you on a Enigma style that has a lot of these like 2 cost plus 1 cost auras where you want multiple blues in a turn? You want to be able to transcend. Enigma's hero ability is probably the one that you would use the most, but there is a trap where sometimes you'll be like, oh, I can transcend here and then activate my hero ability. Often that's going to come at the cost of just presenting damage and creating a shield that your opponent can then clear and doesn't get you long-term value, versus transcending and then pitching that transcend card just to use it for resources to be able to present damage on your turn is probably often going to be better. So don't fall into the trap of overusing the Enigma hero ability when you transcend. I think you want to play between 2 to 5 transcend cards. You can either be a good blue Enigma deck with great blues and a few nice reds to trade damage, and then just some good auras, or you can be a little bit less aura based with just more good damage, trading cards, and a win con, something like ancestral etchings, like we just talked about before, and protecting a late game board state. Don't try to protect board; it's often a trap. You're looking for good defensive blues when you're Enigma. So there's the 2 defense reactions, there's the 2 cost one, and there's the 0 cost defense reaction. Those are really good in Enigma, especially if you compare those with other good blues, and it helps you transcend efficiently on your opponent's turn. So I think those are good. So in Enigma, I am looking for the -1 transcend card, for instance. The arm equipment is really key. I think it's really hard to play Enigma without the arms equipment for Enigma, the one that gives +1 counter. At minimum, if you don't have that, I think you definitely need the Aqualapse, which is the Go Again. Sorry, no, that's not Aqualapse. The Go Again Mystic equipment, which is called Aqualapse. That is the card I was thinking of.
What would you equate the arms to? A Sash of Sandakai level? That's Sandakai.
For the hero.
Yeah.
For the hero, I think, the arms equipment for that hero specifically is really key, I think. Is it Sash or Sandakai? What's another equipment that's like really key but isn't just completely broken like Sash?
Dreamweavers is like, it's not that key, but it's pretty reasonable.
It might be.
If you have like Phantasmify in your deck, sorry, not like any of the pumps, like you really want Dreamweavers, I feel like.
I think it's somewhere in between those two. It's really important though. Mm-hmm. The mirror is an interesting matchup. It's probably maybe the worst matchup in the Seal format. It's very snowbally. It kind of is. If you ever played old Prism Mirrors, it's a little bit like that. kind of first to get the auras down and continue to be able to keep them out is how you win the game. So my tip for the mirror, I think this, if you know this, I think it can really help. Tip for the mirror is to, first of all, open a majestic aura. Mm-hmm. That's going to help you a lot because those deal a lot of damage and they're hard to kill. But failing that, what you should try to do is you try to sideboard in all your Go-Again cards. If you lose a game state where your opponent is like up on auras, what you should try and do is basically take a chunk of damage, use your life total as a resource, and try and push back with setting up your own auras plus some attack damage to go wide and try and break their auras and hope that you can then swing the kind of aura tempo, quote unquote, back your way. So I would sideboard in all my Go-Again cards. I would sideboard in my instant auras, especially anything that gets counters and so I can go again and go wide so I can set up those big turns. And I like to sideboard in any extra damage. Like if I have a yellow 6 attack, for instance, I often think those are reasonable in that situation.
Cool.
Oh, I've done a lot of talking, Brendan.
Yeah, you're the one who played the set.
Any other questions or thoughts? Or I know you're excited to play this. This set's cool, man. This
it's my first pre-release and I can't play. I'm
really?
Yep, I'm playing a 2048th player Lorcana tournament in Atlanta this weekend. So yeah, just how it lined up. It's kind of like One Piece where you gotta like raffle into them a bit. Yeah, so a little bit prepping for that, and yeah, it's a bummer. I'm out Friday, back Sunday night, so I have become a true card game player, in and out, baby. I'm taking the Sunday night 1 a.m. back thing, but yeah, should be interesting.
Do you want to ask the question?
Ask the question.
Yeah. The question.
What's the question?
How does this rank in terms of limited sets?
Oh, let me just ask you: are you excited to play dual format with this set?
I never really think about it that way. Why would I not be comparative to other sets? I think it's the same as any other set, really, in terms of playing dual format. Nationals is coming up, so definitely gonna be playing some dual format. Nationals is, I mean, it's actually a month away. It's actually pretty scary. Wow, that's so soon. It's like 5 weeks away. Nationals. It's national season starts in 4 weeks. No clue what I'm gonna play. Be cool to play Enigma, but I don't know how good it's gonna be.
What about Leviathan?
Not my thing. I think it's still bad.
All right, so where does it land? What do you think? Like, what are your impressions? Because it's an interesting limited set to ask you this question, because I feel like you probably land more in like the heavy hitters design, where this is very different from that. That's true. Yeah. So where does it land after gameplay?
I think this might be the best sealed format.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say the best limited set. I was like, bro, I've heard this.
I don't know if it's the best draft format. I need to do more drafts. I was a little bit concerned with the first couple of drafts I did that it felt like you could just kind of force very specific archetypes in it. But it's early on. I don't know. It's hard to say. But the sealed, I think the 8-pack piece, the 30 card limit to try and encourage the ability to play all the heroes, I think is really interesting. I think a good piece of design. And I think this might make it, along with the gameplay and the interesting sort of edge, the small edges to the gameplay, might make it the best sealed format.
Yeah.
But jury's still out on
was draft capped to 30 as well?
Yes, draft is also 30 cards. Yeah.
Man, bro.
Which I like because
Brian Gottlieb fucking owes me, like, god damn it. I asked him at Barcelona and LA. I was like, what if you just put it at 30 cards? He's like, doesn't work, unfortunately. And I was like, okay. I was like, god damn.
He got you good. I think in draft it actually works just as well, because
yeah, for sure.
The thing is like you're sitting there and you're like, well, I can't afford to pivot because then I have less cards in my deck, and that could, yeah. So you can pivot. I pivoted on pick 8, I think, in this draft, like on the wheel.
Yeah, that was my main thesis for it. Is I remember specifically in Pro Tour LA, I had to pivot because I was the solo guardian, and I still got punished. Like,
yeah, because you didn't have enough cards.
30 cards. Yeah. Like, it's just, man.
I still think it would be easier with 15 card packs. I think 15 card packs with 30 card limit might work out better, but I don't know. I need to do more draft. I'm going to be trying to do a bunch of drafts over the next 2 weeks because, yeah, Nationals is a month away. So that's my goal. Excited. Going to go play some more. Going to go play one pre-release this weekend. I'm not pre-released out. What's the word I'm looking for? I just played a lot of Fish and Bones the last weekend.
You played at a high level too.
Yeah, and then also I've been traveling a lot, so I'm keen to just have a quieter weekend. But I'm definitely going to get out to at least one pre-release. I think me and the boys are going to hit to a pre-release on Friday. So Nikki B, Tommy D, we're all going to be out there playing some pre-release.
Nikki B, Tommy D.
All right.
Rascals.
I think take us out.
All right.
Take us out.
Well, if you enjoy this podcast...
Enjoy your pre-releases, everyone.
Yeah.
Enjoy your pre-releases, everyone. Have fun.
Yeah, this is like the first pre-release, so we can't just give you like the 80-20 on like just pool all your cards together and play this deck. That's kind of cool. Make relevant deck.
Give some tips and tricks though.
Yeah, but
look
like
at your blues.
Let's
start
be
with
real.
your blues.
Let's be real. Like in the other formats, there was a solid 80-20 of like just play this hero, pack all these 3 blocks together, and there you go. You've got X1 deck. So that's cool. I'm excited for sideboarding, like making relevant deck building decisions is very cool. And disagree with me if you want. It's very novel to Flesh and Blood Sealed. Like it is not super been a thing in the past, so I'm pumped for that. Anyway, if you enjoy this podcast and you want to help us out, number one thing you do is leave us a review, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Twitter's at Brendan APG, Fien_Dale. Special shout out to all the Arsenal Pass patrons helping us do what we do. And yeah, we'll see you all next week. Thank you all so much for listening. Maybe have a guest next week. We shall see.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
See ya.
Cheers.